Welcome to Don Ward, who today represents himself, but also the management of the International Council for Research and Innovation in Building and Construction, known as CIB, of which Don has been the Chief Executive Director since February 2020. The CIB is a not-for-profit NGO established in 1953 with the support of the United Nations. The CIB counts as the world's foremost platform for international cooperation and information exchange in building and construction research and innovation. Its worldwide network comprises over 3,000 experts from about 300 member organizations among more than 150 nation states in the world, with a research, university, industry, or government background. Among other CEO roles, Don was previously Chief Executive of the UK Best Practice and Knowledge Transfer Organization, Construction Excellence, the European Construction Institute, the Design Build Foundation and BE, and the Construction Industry Board. Now, Don, thanks for being here today. It's a great pleasure for us. We would like to hear, with your background, you could say in the middle ground between industry, academia, and governance, what are your perspectives to the main bottlenecks, but also the potentials in developing towards a sustainable built environment, and also for cutting down fast on CO2 emissions?
Well, thanks, Michael, for that introduction. And yes, I had an early career as a building physicist at the UK's Building Research Establishment, working on the energy performance of buildings. And after that, I moved into policy and industry reform initiatives, particularly in the UK. So yes, I feel like I've always been in the middle of industry, academia, and government, to be honest. That's sort of how my career has developed. As far as, therefore, the sort of bottlenecks in government, I mean, it seems to me that an over focus in policy making on growth is a major problem, actually, rather than a focus on equitable and an acceptable quality of life. And I'm talking there about developing countries, the sorts of themes that were evident in COP26, but also just equitability in terms of younger generations coming into adulthood now because of the challenges faced as a result of COVID. I think some of the post-COVID policies may be promising. There's a lot of talk of build back better, let's embrace this opportunity. But we need to see governments walking the talk there. Actions speak far louder than words, and so far it just feels too much like rhetoric to me. So and in particular, what I kind of always felt is that there's often governments talk about evidence-based policy making. Again, words, not action. Too often policy decisions seem to be being made on other factors rather than the evidence of what works, and that evidence is what comes from academia and research, of course.
Yeah, so how do we get academia better? So how can we get a better connection between governance and academia?
Well, I think academia's got to embrace the opportunity to communicate better with policymakers, and embrace the opportunity to influence the media. The media are a major intermediary here, and too many academics that I've worked with really shy away from communication with external audiences, whether those are policymakers, whether that's media, whether that's the general public, whoever it is. They don't necessarily speak, well, they haven't necessarily had the media training perhaps, but don't necessarily convert their scientific papers into the language and the messaging and the important points that these outside audiences need to hear. And a contributory factor to that is far too many disparate voices, people keen to emphasize the differences, particularly in competition between researchers perhaps, and you end up with, from academia but also from the industry, with lots of different voices. Instead of, I'm not arguing for a single voice, but for a harmonized choir. Let's all kind of sing off the same hymn sheet. We don't know everything, of course, and yes, of course, there is argument still over some of their knowledge, but there's a huge consensus about what we do know and what is fact and what does happen. Let's emphasize that in our communications with the media, with government, and so on.
Well, thank you. But where does this leave industry? What role in this can the industry actually play, and which are the limiting boundary conditions here at stake?
Yes, I mean, the industry is often accused of being slow to change, and I do believe it is slow to change. I think the drivers for change in other sectors are weak in construction. I mean, regulation and procurement are major tools of government to help the industry. You know, the industry will respond if they're asked to, if they're procured to build something better, more environmentally sustainable or whatever, they'll do it. But if they're not procured for it, they probably won't do it. And that's lack of leadership, lack of innovation, it's lack of investor pressure, it's lack of profitability in the sector. It's an over-competitive sector, and that doesn't help. But if you think about, you know, some of the issues that government can address, that academics can address, and industry can address, there's a collaboration necessary between all three parties, and collaborative working is not necessarily in the culture of the industry at a project level, nor frankly at a sector level. There's too much fragmentation. So I hope initiatives like the Joint Committee can bring this harmonized choir, can bring a sense of, you know, commitment to a set of common messages, and that collectively we can get across a consistent set of messages to policymakers and to the media and other stakeholders.
Thank you very much, Don. Thank you for your insightful comments, which will be to our benefit at our physical workshop this year in April. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, and my best wishes to the committee. Thanks.